the new attack, now that People's Temple is being set aside for a few days, and the Panthers, though another charge is being pressed against Huey Newton, last week it was, and Synanon has been attacked mercilessly. Now the attack again is focusing on Scientology. The reason for this, according to U.S. UPI source that prefers to remain anonymous, is because Scientology has revealed how high the Nazi influence goes in the police work of USA, USA Customs, Treasury Department, and the police of the entire world. So, the new attack. I'll give you some detail of it. The author versus Scientology. One that should make one's heartstrings pulled if they did not know the utter lies, the terrible smears that the arm of monopoly capitalism, its willing servant, the U.S. newspapers, will do. In the fall of 1971, author Paulette Cooper came out with a book called The Scandal of Scientology. And then, according to her lawyers, friends, family, and lawyers, the following things happened to her. She received repeated telephone calls from anonymous people who threatened to kill her. Letters were posted on her neighbors' doors telling them she had venereal disease and should be evicted from her apartment. Her publisher was sued and harassed to the point that he withdrew the book from circulation. The Church of Scientology sued her in New York, Los Angeles, Detroit, England, Scotland, Australia, Ontario, and British Columbia, each time charging that her book had defamed the church. There's something to be said for suits. I wish we could think about that. Our lawyers here feel the same. But sometimes lawyers in USA don't want to be caught taking on the outrageous liars, publishers, and press. In New York City, Scientologists claimed that they had a bomb threat, and the federal government subsequently indicted the author for sending the threat. Then, the government charged her with perjury for denying it. Now, according to informed sources, federal agents have found evidence. Informed sources means nothing, absolutely nothing. Federal agents have found evidence in seized church records that indicates Scientologists framed Cooper by stealing her stationery and sending themselves the bomb threat. Now, you know, a federal government is not going to make an indictment based on something like this. A church spokesman denied last week that Scientologists were involved in any way with such scheme. Said he, it's totally ridiculous and typical of outrageous false statements that some people feel led to pass on regarding the church. I imagine that was the weakest of his quotes, typical of the press again, to put out the weak quotes, said Greg Layton, the church spokesman for Scientology. Same name as our dear Layton's here, L-A-Y-T-O-N. Cooper was reported to be traveling in Europe and could not be reached for comment. Her attorneys, family, and friends, however, painted a horror picture of a woman locked for years in an almost hopeless struggle against an organization that seemed bent on intimidating and killing her. She was left severely depressed and in need of psychiatric treatment, according to these sources. See, no one's mentioned. They, the Church of Scientology, did a lot to destroy this girl's life, said her attorneys in Los Angeles, Virgil Roberts. When Cooper was subpoenaed to appear before a federal grand jury in New York, not long after her book was published, she was excited because she thought she was going to testify against the Scientologists, who are hated now because of their activities to reveal Nazi activity. Interpol, control of Interpol, Nazis, control Interpol, FBI, Customs, Treasury Department. A member of her family recalled Friday when she found out what it was all about, she couldn't believe it. Federal investigators informed her that the Scientologist had received a bomb threat, apparently on her stationery, with her fingerprints on it. A family friend, who says she has a copy of the note, said that the threat is typed, a few lines long, and includes a comment that this operation hurts. Cooper had recently had a surgical operation. She said it looked like a maniac wrote it, one of her lawyers said. I doubt it. The federal government would be too happy to prosecute the Scientologists for all they reveal about corruption in high places. When Cooper denied writing it, prosecutors accused her of lying, and the government charged her with perjury. She underwent injections of sodium pentothal, truth serum, and was questioned at length, according to the family and friends, and prosecutors eventually were forced to drop the charges. Federal prosecutors would have been too happy to have prosecuted the Scientologist, not her. Afterward, according to family and friends, Cooper wondered how some of her stationery might have disappeared from her apartment. She concluded, according to these sources, that the stationery disappeared when a woman came to her door, supposedly to solicit signatures for a petition in support of a grape boycott, and Cooper invited the woman in. She does not know how she got to the stationery, but the stationery was in her desk. Well, makes nice story, makes nice copy, makes great fear tactics against Scientologists. Cooper sued once in April 1972, accusing the Church of Scientology of intentional interference with her constitutional freedom of speech and press. She charged that representatives of the Church had intimidated prospective publishers of her books and had subjected her to obscene telephone calls, threats, and electronic surveillances. She asked for $15.5 million in damages. Sounds like the goddamn Medlocks that Stone was gotten to lie. Put us under a $18 million suit. Don't worry, they won't get it. Each time newspapers wrote a story about her court battles, Cooper received anonymous telephone calls threatening her life. Threatening her life. One of her lawyers said. The caller said things like, "We're going to push you under a subway car when we catch you at the station. And we're going to give you the 44 treatment," according to Paul D. Reingold, one of Cooper's New York lawyers. Cooper, who has a master's degree in psychology, became interested in the Scientologist while a student at Brandeis University in Waltham, Massachusetts, a member of the family said. Her picture looks like a sickly blonde. It looks like that, I can't remember what her name was, used to come to church. I can't remember what her name is. When she went to the New York City Central Library, however, she found that all references to Scientology had been removed with a sharp instrument. She subsequently met Scientologists and began compiling research from other publications because the Scientologists had cut out all passages referring to their movement in every library in the East Coast that she went to. Well, if they did, bless them for trying to cut away the lies. Except for the New York suit, all others against her have been settled out of court. Attorney Roberts said Cooper received legal fees and signed a pledge not to publish or ever comment on anything in her book. Roberts said, "I'm advising her not to talk about Scientologists at all," said the attorney. That's what it helps to put people on the goddamn defensive. Let's think about this, our attorneys and our staff here. A $15.5 million suit in New York City is pending, Reingold said, and Cooper is eager to move forward on it in light of the new evidence about the bomb threat that's so conveniently come forward now, since the FBI invaded all the churches of Scientology and took away their records. Cooper relied on her family for support during the years following publication of the scandal of Scientology, and the family incurred legal debts of around $35,000 while battling the criminal charges, according to a family member. Poor people. Paulette was an unusual person in that the harassment nearly destroyed her, but rather than stop it, made her fight back with her limited means, even when she was hospitalized. Yes, I'm sure. She looked, her long blonde hair straggling down, clear to her navel. She looks like a poor, mistreated, dear little thing. "I would have given up, and I consider myself a strong person," said Reingold. Harry Shorten, publisher of Tower Publications Incorporated, said he had no idea the publication of the scandal of Scientology would bring the response it did. "They sued us several times," he said. "It hurt us very, very badly. Every time I turned around, there were letters from Scientology." See, he said it hurt us very, very badly. Shorten said he guessed he printed about 50,000 of the books, all in paperback, and withdrew them long before the normal marketing deadline to avoid further suits. He said he could not say, without great research, how many copies did sell, but only estimated a few hundred. It pays to resist. Even though, in the long run, the fascist system will win, and it's getting worse daily. This is a little bit more of the news. Let us evaluate the news and study it well. As we do, we can avoid less tests. If I look around and see you studying, then that will confirm my mind that you have some interest. And I do want to see interest shown in the news. Let's be studying the tapes under the library Tonight, we want to study Z, because it's going to be an in-depth study of Z, a whole test on Z. Let's study it closely and interpret it carefully between its lines. We have a moderator do so, perhaps Professor Trop, or whoever has the available time can do that in the manner that I interpreted it, because it lends itself to great interpretation, frightening interpretation. Why anyone would want to go to USA with nuclear war hanging over, just like a sword of Damocles, concentration camps ready to be opened in the same manner as you saw in Z? That's how crazy fascism goes when it takes over. That's how crazy it is. So let us look at Z in one film of the Soviets for review and testing.